Okay, I think we can start for today. Our topic will be time series supply planning. So we'll spend a couple of days on the concepts of time series supply planning, see what master data it requires to set up the time series supply planning within IBP, and then what are the key figures which are being used from the supply planning perspective, right? So now what you will realize is more we'll talk about supply planning, we'll talk about all standard setup, right? Whereas during discussions for S&OP or demand, you would realize that demand planning is more customizable. You can create your own key figures, you can uh, have the
Don't forget to subscribe our channel and click on bell icon to update yourself with latest SAP videos.
demand flow as per the client needs, starting from different opinion lines, getting consensus, working on the local demand plan, global demand plan, and finally coming up to the consensus demand quantity calculations. You can rename those key figures as per the client needs and finalize the unconstrained demand or constrained demand, right? You use key figure calculation logics available as part of the model configuration. You can use different copy operators to copy the data from one source key figure to another source key figure, from one level to another level, and so on. Whereas supply planning is more standard, right? Whatever SAP provided key figures exist in the unified planning area or the supply planning area, you would use those, right? There will be less amount of flexibility here to configure or change the configuration of the key figures, right? Because the way the algorithms have been coded, they expect the key figure technical codes or the key figure formulas as is what SAP has provided, right? So you will try to relate that with your if you have a APO experience. In APO world also, demand planning was more customizable, but supply planning, you would use the standard SAP provided key figures. Now, very important point to make sure your supply planning design works as expected by making sure that the master data consistency is there. Right? Now, when you say master data consistency, uh, the lead times, production rates, production versions, resources, work centers, routings, all these information with correct master data has to be integrated from your source system, which can be CC or S4, into IBP. So we'll go through those concepts also during the discussions. Please stop me if any of you do not have experience on supply planning, APO supply planning world. And if you want some more elaboration on some of the functionalities, etc., we will go through those. Okay. I'm utilizing the IBP 200 slides. So you can refer those during your offline study and come back with questions. Right. So again, the purpose of this specific lesson, we will be talking about different key figures and functionality of supply planning. Right. Here, we will be able to understand the benefits and features of S&OP within the supply planning sub-process as such, okay, and how the supply planning can be executed. Why do we need a supply planning feature? Now, provided your organization has completed the demand generation part, then you need to understand your replenishment plan, your net requirements within the supply chain network, right, to fulfill this demand, right? So basically, in order to fulfill the demand, system will try to identify the shortages, system will try to identify the source of supply from where the demand can be met, system will try to identify the production sources, system will try to identify the procurement sources, right, within your supply chain, starting from the downstream system, which could be a customer or a shipping warehouse, till the upstream system like manufacturing plant or even a vendor, in case if you map that into the system, right? The supply planning calculation can be unconstrained or constrained. Yeah, depend on the business requirement, you may decide to go for unconstrained supply plan or constrained supply plan. Unconstrained supply plan from APO world perspective, you would see or you would hear supply network planning heuristic terminology, right? Where it's like a normal ERP planning process where system will not look for the constraints within the supply chain, but it will try to fulfill the demand and try to create the replenishment plan, whether it is in terms of stock transfer equations, plan orders, or purchase equations, right? Whereas if the client need requires a constraint plan to be produced based on the constraint within your supply chain, the constraint could be production constraint or supplier constraint, then you would hear a term called as optimizer. Okay. Right now, we will focus on supply planning, time series supply planning using heuristics, which is a net requirement based calculation. So when you go into IBP web UIs, SAP has already provided standard planning operators. Okay? A planning operator is nothing but an operator which represents a specific algorithm. An operator can be related to heuristics, related to optimizer, or anything else. In recent versions, SAP also created an operator for shelf life planning, right? But yes, don't
forget to subscribe our channel and click on bell icon to update yourself with latest SAP videos.
get confused with a term called as operator. Copy operator functionality, what we discussed earlier, it's a totally different functionality. Whereas in order to run any algorithm, the operator has been provided by SAP, is called as planning operator. We can run these operators interactively or also in the batch mode, right, via application job, right? Both can be triggered from web UI perspective also, as well as from the Excel UI perspective also, right? You can decide during your design phase whether you want to give control to planner to run that algorithm by himself, or you choose to have a periodic scheduled batch job, right? Because supply planning normally it would be a weekly planning process or a monthly planning process as well. So you may decide to schedule the jobs at the end of the weekend or end of the month end, right? So here example, operator 100 is a standard operator provided by SAP to run the unconstrained supply planning, right? So there might be certain internal settings provided by SAP within this operator so that the program will run internally to calculate the supply plan with reference to a unconstrained plan. It will generate the demand, it will generate the receipt elements to match the demands without considering any constraints within your supply chain, right? Similar to a concept of MRP in ECC, right? It's a simple net requirement based planning algorithm. Similar way, SAP has also provided unconstrained based planning algorithms.
Sam, is this part of SNOP planning license or?
Yes. Yes, I think
okay,
a simple heuristics is available as part of SNOP planning license, which can be used for time series supply planning. But there are additional algorithms provided by SAP like optimizer or even shelf life based plan or constraint based feasible planning, etc. Those operators do not exist in SNOP. For that, you need to have a supply license.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
So just a screenshot of available SNOP operator profiles. So one example is time series based supply heuristics with the ID of 100. Right? There could be another heuristic. You can also copy this one and create your customized one. But normally I've seen people using the standard operator. Right? Now, as part of the planning area activation, you would also need to enable the supply planning in case you want to utilize supply planning or within the same planning area, right? You may decide to have demand planning only as part of your unified planning area execution. In that case, you can disable the supply planning.